Welcome back to another session of CaN, Gallant Current Affairs and News Analysis. So today we will be looking into yesterday's and today's, that is 10th October and 11th October's news. So I have with me about 7 news today. First we will be discussing about the state of India's scheduled area. So we had a big article in the text content of our Hindu. So it will be dealing about the scheduled areas, what are the issues present now and what are the way forward. Then multimodal AI. Now there is a development of artificial intelligence in the field with ChatGPT, with Facebook, Meta and happening. So we will be looking into the key term, what is actually multimodal AI. Then what is Hamas actually achieved from the attack on Israel. So we will be looking like this is the fifth day of Hamas actually attacking Israel, and what is the aftermath, what we can actually expect from this also we need to learn. Then we have an article in today's newspaper about women want change, society needs change. It talks about the global gender report or the global gender gap, what is that. So we will be looking into that as well. Then 2023 Nobel Prize for Economics was actually given to Claudia. So we will be looking into why was the award actually given for Claudia and what is actually her work. Then we have the concept of urban employment. There has been actually a decline in the urban unemployment. So we will be actually looking into that as well. Then Indian Ocean Rim Association. Sri Lanka is the present chair. So India is also a member of Indian Ocean Rim Association. So we should actually know about what is Indian Ocean Rim Association as well. Now moving on to our first article, we have the state of India's scheduled areas. So the scheduled areas majorly consist of the tribal populations as such. So if we are looking into the total circumference of the scheduled area that is actually present in India, about 705 communities of scheduled tribes are actually present in India. Now this accounts to about 8.6% of the total population of India, like 8.6% of the total population in India are tribal population, and they actually accumulate about 11.3% of the geographical area of India. Now this is the key data which you need to know. Now you can actually use this data in your introduction to the main answers as well. If you get a question about the tribal, especially if you get a question about tribal Panchsheel or tribal communities, what are the problems they are facing, the social, economic, political aspect of it, the first thing which you can actually give is the geographical area, the extent, the population and the number of communities. So 705 scheduled tribes communities are there, who accommodate about 8.6% of the total population, and they live in about 11.3% of the total of the geographical area. Now another fact which you need to mainly know is article 244. This article actually talks about the administration of the scheduled areas as such. Now in this we need to look about article 244(1) and article 244(2). If you can see the map here, all this red which you can actually see here, these are actually the 5th scheduled areas. So this article 241(1) talks about the 5th scheduled area. So this 5th schedule consists of all the other states except the Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. Remember, all these 4 northeast states, Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram, comes under the 6th schedule, and the 6th schedule is mentioned in article 244(2), and in article 244(1) it talks about the 5th schedule areas. 244(1). So in this here, all the red you can see is what they actually shown in the article 244(1), that is the 5th schedule areas, and all the northeast area, the 4 states, Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram, these are actually comes under the article 244(2). So in altogether article 244 becomes very important in the context of the tribal communities in India. And another thing which you need to know is that President usually notifies and declares a scheduled area. If there is also need for the extent or redraw also, that is actually decided by the President itself. And now then when the President declares an area a scheduled area, the state can actually create tribal advisory council which consists of about 20 scheduled tribe members as well. So these are basic Lakshmikant concept, or these are basic things which you can actually find in any of the polity texts. So this is the background of the tribal percentage in India, how the tribal areas are scheduled actually comes in, and which is an important article that is actually mentioned here as well. But moving after this, there is a lot of issues happening. The thing is that governor has a very important role to play here, when governor has actually an important role to play here when it actually comes to the administration of this scheduled areas as such. The governor actually decide which all laws will be actually applicable to this particular area as well. But the power of governor is actually, it's more like a dead letter as such. The power of governor is actually not articulated into such areas efficiently. So that is the first thing. And the second thing is, how is this scheduled areas declared? Is there a category to declare this scheduled area? Is there some provisions within the constitution that mandates us which all area should be categorized as scheduled area? Is there some kind of criteria associated with actually considering a particular tribe or a particular area as a scheduled area? Now such things are not actually clearly mentioned. That is also another important thing. Another thing is that all you can see here, these are the particular areas where the scheduled areas and tribes are actually concentrated. But the thing is that about 59% of this tribal population is outside of these areas. 59% of this tribal population is actually outside of the scheduled areas. If the particular tribal population is actually living in the scheduled area, there is a lot of benefits they get. If it's regarding to forest rights or the Biodiversity Act or whatever rights they get, if they are in the scheduled area, they get these rights. But if they actually come out of the scheduled areas, they are not liable to any of these rights. So the thing is that 59% of the tribal population live outside their scheduled areas, because of which they are actually not getting the rights that they actually require. So these are the three issues the article actually mentions with case regarding the scheduled areas. Now there are two committees which we need to know regarding this. We have the Debar Commission, also the Bhuria Commission. The Debar Commission talks about the guiding norms for declaring an area as a scheduled tribe. The preponderance of the tribal population. Now what all criteria should the government actually consider before declaring a particular area scheduled tribe? The first thing is the predominance of tribal population, then compactness and reasonable size of the area, then viable administration like district, block, taluk and such, and backwardness of the areas. So these are the 4 criteria that are actually given by the Debar Commission to actually look into before deciding if a particular area comes under scheduled areas norm. But as I have told you, 59% of the population lives outside the scheduled areas. So how does this preponderance of tribal population take place? How is this reasonable tribe taking place? Now if there is a particular area, this is particular villages, these all tribal populations are actually scattered all across the different villages. There may be the considered population of tribals associated, but they are actually spread across. Now this may be the scheduled area that is declared, but all the tribal population are accumulated in outside of the scheduled area. Now this creates a lot of problems regarding the rights conserved that of the tribal population. Now Bhuria Commission 1995 states that they recommended provisions for the extension of Panchayat Raj, like the PESA, you might know PESA Act. Panchayat Raj extension to Scheduled Areas Act, PESA Act, to scheduled areas including villages, but the problem was that this was actually not executed. So two commissions come along with this, one is the Debar Commission and then other is the Bhuria Commission. Now there is no particular law here which actually mentions the minimum percentage of scheduled tribe which is actually present in one particular area. So all this becomes one of the major issues. As I have told you, there are 3 issues and there are 2 committees that is associated with, like what are recommendation that can be actually given to the scheduled tribe as such. But 3 is the powers of the governor, and then the how is the scheduled area identified, and what is how majority, like 59% of the population of scheduled tribe is outside of the scheduled area. So to give out all this, you can actually either put out the committee reports like the Bhuria Commission, which actually talks about the PESA Act, that is the Panchayat Raj Extension to Scheduled Act. But if that is actually implemented, this would be actually helpful and beneficial to all these scheduled tribes and other people that who comes under this scheduled areas as such. Also the author talks about like 3, what are the way forwards here? Let us see that. The thing is that all these issues need to be addressed. The first thing is that, as I have told you, 59% of the population is scattered. So wherever they are, it is very important that they are actually brought back to the scheduled areas as such. All inhabitants of group outside the scheduled areas will need to be notified as scheduled areas irrespective of their contingency. So wherever they are, it's important that they are actually notified as scheduled areas so that they actually get the rights they deserve. The scheduled areas, as I have told you, they have particular sets of rights. So even if there's forest rights or biodiversity rights as such, they have a particular category of rights. So it's important that they are actually notified as scheduled areas as such. Then geographical limit of these villages. As I have told you in my last, if this is like if it is an area, there is particularly a lot of villages associated, and if this is the declared scheduled area, but all the majority tribal population is concentration out of this area, it's very important you can actually alter the geographical limit of this area. If you can extend this up to covering all this area, all these tribal groups which are actually scattered across the region will actually come under the scheduled area as such. That is one of the suggestions that is actually made by the author. Next, the geographical limit of the revenue villages, panchayat and taluk, that can be also increased. But for this delimitation commission is actually required. For that, policies should come, the government should decide. So this particular category is actually a lengthy process because the delimitation commission has to come for that. But for the other, these are some of the viable measures that we can actually take to counter the issues which is pertaining. So that is what that has been actually mentioned in this article. Now moving on, we have the multimodal AI. There are two types of AI that is actually available. One is the narrow, then is the broad. Now the narrow one is what we are actually using right now, and the broad is actually in future, but we also don't know if this broad category could be actually achieved by the artificial intelligence. Now we are actually looking into the narrow mode. Now this narrow mode is text to text comparison. If we are actually giving out some text, we will be the output. Input is text and the output is also text. We are actually giving input as text, and what we are actually receiving as output is also text. It's a kind of one dimensional. If also you are given some kind of instructions to a particular application, they can only perform that kind of instructions over and over in a particular loop. They cannot make alterations of their own. They cannot add anything on their own. They actually follow the set of controls and commands that are actually given by the humans. That is the only limit that they can actually follow. That is what the narrow category is called. The broad, as you can imagine, is the opposite of this. They can actually go beyond this. So this multi-model is what connects a narrow to a broader. So presently, as I have told you, there is actually a text to text. This is the narrow model we have been following. The thing is that we cannot actually convert this text to an image. This kind of technology is actually developing. Okay, we cannot also convert this image to a text. What if we want to convert this? Okay, so as I have told you, text to image and image text, these are the technologies that are also developing. So what if you want to convert this image to image, also text to text? So all these are something which is actually coming underway. So if we have to convert a text to image, we need something that is more than narrow. If we need to convert an image to a text as well, we need to go beyond a narrow artificial intelligence. That is where the multimodal artificial intelligence is actually coming in. It can actually take a lot of data, it can also take a lot of images and text and then convert it to a particular text or an image. This goes beyond the narrow artificial intelligence. So that is what is particularly called the key terminology, what is meant by actually this multimodal AI as such. These all could be actually connected together by multimodal. There is narrow, there is broad, and multimodal is something which actually connects this narrow with the broad as such. So how was this multimodal AI actually developing within now? The thing is that beyond text, if they could actually identify image, let's just take if Meta or Facebook, there is a lot of hate speech going on. Some hate speech might even come in memes as such. So how is it that they can actually find this category? If they can actually read the image and then convert it into a text, means that they can actually identify that particular hate speech which is actually emerging. So the thing is that there is hate speech which comes in a form of meme. The application, the artificial intelligence application can actually read this image and then convert into text. So that is how Facebook and Meta, they are actually developing their new model. Now ChatGPT makers, OpenAI is also making ChatGPT 3.5 and ChatGPT 4, which actually enables to study images and convert them into text. The Google also, they are actually releasing their multi-model called the Gemini. This is the multi-model language model called the Gemini that will be actually released by Google. Then there is Meta, they can actually detect hate speech and hateful memes on Facebook. Now Google, they are also creating their multi-model kind of stuff to build a prefix of the next line of dialogue. Now they can actually predict the next dialogue, like everything text that is actually going to come. The Meta is also developing image bird, which can actually learn or blind text, visual data, temperature and such is also can be actually detected by this kind of tech. Now what is the application? Now this can be actually used in CT scans and such, CT scans and the medicine field and such. Now when this actually scanned and when this actually comes out, the particular artificial intelligence, this multimodal artificial intelligence can actually read through these images and give out the correct text or give out the correct diagnosis or such. Particular kind of diseases might be present in that scan which is not visible to the naked eye. So such kind of can be actually generated by the artificial intelligence and can be given out. We might actually miss out the particular kind of diagnosis for a particular disease. So all this can be actually identified effectively by this multimodal artificial intelligence. So that is the application that is actually associated with this. What is the application we have actually come to find out now. So that is what is called this multimodal artificial intelligence. Moving on, we have what has Hamas achieved from this attack on Israel. So let us look first in the history of Israel. As you can see, like in my last class I have told you a brief about how the Israelis force formed after the British actually withdrew from this area. The Jews came together to create the motherland of Israel. Since then there has been a lot of issues happening between this Israel, the Jew population as well as the Palestine Arab population. So if you are going back to the history of Israel, it shows that always US has been actually helping out Israel as such. Now Israel was actually not recognized within that area as a considerable country as such. So US was there to back up Israel even with everything like including military defense equipments has been given out by US to Israel. So the arrogance of Israel has been actually growing since then because they have a backup of United States where they are actually getting the military updated military weapons and such, because of which they felt like they are very indefeatable. So since then there has been a lot of aggressions happening with Israel as such. If you are looking at 1967, they want to capture the Sinai Peninsula as well as the Golan Heights region, that is with Egypt and Syria. So initially this war was between Israel and Egypt, then Syria actually joined in, because of which the war was actually won by Israel and they actually got the Sinai Peninsula as well as the Golan Heights. But cutting chase to 1973, you might have heard this in the newspaper for 3 to 4 days, Yom Kippur War. So what is this Yom Kippur War? The thing is that Israel was taken by surprise. As I have told you, Israel was what happened. Israel had the military, like advanced military checkup. They could actually track and they had proper intelligence. That is what Israel has claimed all the world, that they are superior in the field of military. They could actually do anything and everything. So that is what the image that has been actually portrayed by Israel. But the thing is that in 1973, this Yom Kippur, or this is also called the Ramadan War, this is the 10th day of Ramadan month, the Muslim Islamic month of Ramadan. So the thing is that the Israel was actually not able to detect this particular launch of war. There was a sudden surprise attack from the part of Egyptians as well as the Syrian. They actually got into Israel and controlled a lot of areas thereof Israel. Now this attack was taken by surprise by the Israel because they were actually not able to trace the intelligence of this upcoming war as such. Now there was a blow to the military defense or military power of that of Israel. But the thing is that even if they were took by surprise, they had the military equipment and such, by the end they were actually able to get a neutral stand. Or the Sinai Peninsula and the Golan Heights, which was actually taken by Israel in the 1967, had to be actually given back. It was a neutral win-win situation for actually both the parties. The thing is that it gave out the definition that Israel is not indestructible. Israel is actually destructible and they are not the mighty power that they actually claim to be. Now this Yom Kippur War, similarly about the attack that Hamas has actually launched, that is actually set similar to that of the Yom Kippur War. The Hamas, they actually launched a surprise attack and the Israeli intelligence were actually not able to detect this attack. So that is why this particular Hamas, this war is actually attack is actually linked to that of the Yom Kippur War. Now this is like Israel in the last years, like we have the Iron Dome technology and such that has been developed by Israel and such. So in the 2021-22 we have been witnessing how the big military power Israel has become, and an undefeatable power Israel has become. So the sudden surprise attack by Hamas, which could not be detected by Israel, was actually a blow to their prestige as well. So that is why the sudden attack is actually linked to that of the Yom Kippur War. So that is why it's actually connected as a parallel. Now why is Hamas wanted this attack, or why is Hamas actually creating this attacks? You know, after the 1947 UN created because of the Israel-Palestine issue, the UN actually gave out this two-nation theory. But this theory in actual never worked out. I showed you this is actually Israel, this is the West Bank region, this is the Gaza Strip, and then we have the West Bank region. So these are the two-nation theory, and then we have the Jerusalem, which will be actually under the international control. So this theory did not actually work out. Initially, if they did accept for this theory, Israel has been due to all this territory restrictions and something, they have actually controlled most of this Palestine area as such, because of it the two-nation theory was an utter failure. So because of which they need the Hamas they need to actually give some voice to the Palestine issue, because a lot of Palestine has been actually killed in the last 2 to 3 years of military action that has been conducted by Israel. Even young boys like in the age between 10 to 16 years have been actually killed by Israeli officials and Israeli militant groups. So because of which it is important that the Palestine voice actually comes out. And then the next is dehypensation. The hypensation, which means that if we are taking a particular area, if you are taking India, if you are talking about India, it is impossible that you miss out Pakistan. So always India and Pakistan are the two concepts that is actually discussed together. India-Pakistan war, India-Pakistan issue. Whenever the topic of India comes up, Pakistan also comes up. Now this is not bifurcated. Whenever we talk of India, there is Pakistan. Similarly, Israel-Palestine has been a similar issue. Whenever we talk about Israel, we will also address Palestine as well. But in the recent years, what happened is that Israel has come out as a major power. There is much more interaction with other Arab countries like UAE, Saudi, Turkey, Qatar and such, because of Israel has actually put up an independent position within the world. Because of it, when we address Israel, we are not addressing Palestine like before, or the issue of Palestine, like people are ignoring the issue of Palestine. Now Israel has grown big much that there is dehypensation, that is the Palestine issue is also not mentioned along with Israel. So that concept is called as dehypensation. Now because of it, there is a shift in the international focus away from Palestine. Now this was of a major concern for the Hamas. Next thing is the security order or the complex of Israel. So the Israel government, what they did, they actually established a lot of security areas, security complex, just tightening or controlling the movement of this Palestine area. Now this created a lot of frustration within that of the Palestine people. That is also one of the other reasons why there was this attack was organized by Hamas. Then growing relationships between that area. Recently, Israel-UAE relations was done. Saudi and Iran, Shia Sunni country, they are also coming together in terms. Then Saudi, Qatar, Iran, Turkey, now they are all actually emerging as a close unit because of all the international relations happening between, like diplomatic issues happening between China, USA and such, because of which all these countries there is actually a growing relationship. Now Hamas felt that when there is a growing relationship, like majority are Arab countries, they might not actually take up the issue of Palestine. So what Hamas did, the Palestine issue was actually coming down or people were ignoring it. So Hamas wanted to intend an attack so that this Palestine issue pops up again. So that is one of the main issues or dimensions why Hamas actually attacked Israel, is what the author has been actually saying in this article. Moving on, we have women want change and society needs change. So there has been a global gender gap report that has been given out by the World Economic Forum, which actually indicates that the current rate of progress. It states that it will take about 131 years to achieve gender parity on the global level. But for developing countries or the populous countries like India and such, it will take about 149 years to achieve a global gender gap parity. So that is what has been stated by the World Economic Forum. If you ever get a question on gender equality, this is one of the data or fact which you can actually mention now. The globe will actually get gender parity only within 131 years, and for populous countries like India, it will take about 149 years. And the author also states that to achieve gender parity, we need to give women reservation. So with the women reservation bill and all that has been actually passed, this topic becomes pretty much very important. So there is arguments against women reservation. It states that it will kill competition and bring inefficiency, which means that if you are actually trying to give a lot of reservation to women, there will not be any competition and ineffective or non-effective people will actually come into power. This will actually reduce the overall power within the governance. These are some of the arguments that is actually stated against the reservation. Now, why do we need reservation? Like, we have universal adult suffrage. Till then also we are actually think that role of the woman is actually minimal. The number of women, as I have told you in the Lok Sabha and such, the participation of women is less than 15%. In state legislative assemblies and such, it is actually less than 10%. In certain states is below 5% as well. So, because of this, even if there is universal adult suffrage, even if there is voting rights, even if women can participate, the participation of women within the electorate sector as well as also in the parliament has been actually pretty much very less. Political participation is tough and full of prejudice as well, as I have told you, even if you are coming to power. Like, the thing is that only the powerful or the well established women can actually come to power, where the ground level or the ground women are actually not able to come up to the top as well. Lack of women in the leadership, not just in the political sector. If you are looking at the private sector as well, the role of women, like the height woman as a position of CEO or such, is actually pretty much very less. It's just 1 in 10. So that is how there is a lack of women leadership as well. Then historical evidence, as I have told you, it took about 27 years to actually pass this bill of women reservation. It actually took us 27 years. Now, each time there was some of the other issues that was actually pointed out by both men as well as women. So that is what the why is there is actually a need for reservation. Then failure of women leaders as the cause of women. The thing is that, as I have told you, the top layer of women actually comes in with like people who have resources. The women who have resources come up to the top. But the other thing is that there is no support as well for a woman is actually who is coming up as well. The thing is that there is no support in the system. If women support women, the women leaders will rise up. But this top level of leaders that are women particularly are not supporting this ground level. So that is also another problem that the author has been stating about. Progressive views of society upheld by both men and women. Even if there is progressive society, we have still some kind of prejudice or the patriarchal society we are actually living in is also another issue. Then previous insistence to the women reservation bill holds the example, as I have told. 27 years it actually took us. So that is what the article, key points in the article that has been highlighting. This topic has been there and there in the news for a long time. That's why I briefed it this much. Then 2023 Nobel Prize for Economics. You can see Claudia Goldin actually wins this 2023 Economic Prize. She is only the third woman out of the 29 people who have actually won Nobel Prize for Economics in the past years as such. She did a lot of research basically on the gender gap in the labor market. She actually researched with the data of past 200 years with the participation of women in the labor market and actually came out what is the gender gap in the labor market. So that has been actually in her study. She stated that even if there is actually economic growth within the society, there is actually wage gap. Wage gap as well as divide still exists between men and women. These are some of the key findings she actually came upon. So we will look at that. She actually talks about a U-shaped curve. This is the curve that she has been actually portraying about, which shows the employment stances or the gender gap within women. Now this is the age of agriculture. This is the pre-industrial revolution phase. Then we have the industrial revolution phase. And now we have the present age of the service sectors, where the service sectors are actually growing. So if you look at this agriculture sector phase, that is actually before the industrial revolution, you can see the participation of women like in the workforce is actually pretty much very high. The participation there has been a lot of women who are actually participating, because at that time there was a phenomenon of work from home. The thing is that agriculture is actually practiced within their home as well. So because of which, when they are participating in agriculture within their home, within the area of their home, their employment actually increases, because of which there was high employment rate. Now, when there was industrial revolution, there was steep decline with the participation of women in the employment, because it's all the industrial revolution was actually concentrated at a particular area. If you need to work in an industry and such, you have to go to an urban center. So you need to migrate. So the thing is that a woman, a working woman, a family woman, it means that if a mother, they have to actually take care of the children and such, because of which they were not able to work in factories and such. So the men actually go and work in the factories and women stay at home. So because of which the employment actually gradually reduced. But after industrial revolution, with the development of the service sector as such, the employment actually grew. With the service sector, we have actually seen the work from home that has actually been happening. So with all this, there was actually gradually increase in the development of the women in employment, in education as such. There was actually increase in employment rate as well. With this, there was also expanding education. When the women started getting job, they educated their next generation and such, because of which the education also increased, because of which when the education increased, early marriage and early pregnancies reduced. They started using a lot of contraceptive pills, because of which they were actually able to control the population or the number of children they want. So women started becoming the dictator of their own life as such. But still, even with the development or employment of women, we still experience wage gap, glass ceilings. The thing is that they are actually not able to go beyond a particular job, particular level, then pink collar jobs like school teachers, nurses as such. They are actually, now these are some of the new challenges that are actually faced by women. So that is what this U-shaped curve. Just remember, the Claudia Gordon actually gave us a U-shaped curve regarding the gender gap in the labor market. So that is what this whole article is dealing about. Then we have the urban employment. So the urban employment, recently the periodic labor force survey as well as the labor force participation rate was actually given out by the National Sample Survey Organization. So it actually told us that the unemployment rate has actually reduced. The unemployment rate was actually 7.6%, which actually gradually reduced to about 6.6%. Now this is a huge win, because we are actually going back to the pre-pandemic level, where there is a boost in the economy and boost also in the employment also sector also. For men, it actually decreased from over 7.1 to 5.9%, and for women it decreased from a 9.5 to only a small decrease, but still there was a considerable amount of decrease. Also the participation of worker population rate was also high, it also improved during this period. So that is what has been actually coming on. Remember, this periodic labor force survey is actually given by the National Sample Survey Organization. Moving to the last topic, we have the Indian Ocean Rim Association. As I have told you, it is an intergovernmental organization. It consists of 22 members as well as 9 dialogue partners. All these 22 member states are actually surrounding the Indian Ocean. Currently, Sri Lanka is the chair to this. This was formed in 1977, and the secretariat of this particular Indian Ocean, IORA, is actually in Mauritius. It is based on the principles of open regionalism for strengthening economic cooperation as such. So you can see from this, this is what all this South African area, then India is also a member. Then you can see all this, what you see in green are the members. They all surround this Indian Ocean region. You can see the observing partners like US, China, you can see Egypt and such, who are actually the observing partners of this. There are 6 key areas of their engagement, namely maritime security, trade and investment, fisheries, disaster risk, academic and science cooperation, as well as tourism, promotion and culture. Now this is something which I added extra. It's not very important, but still if you are considering a pretty much area like Indian Ocean, these are some of the key 6 areas where it's considered. Remember, India is a member of IORA. This is important. Then moving on to our last slide. The thing is that through this Indian Ocean, a lot of trade actually takes place. 80% of India's energy import happen through the Indian Ocean, as well as 40% of the world's global trade actually happen via Indian Ocean. This is the 3rd largest ocean woven together by trade. Right? This is the 3rd largest ocean where that's like a lot of trade that goes through. 40% of the global trade actually happens through this area, and it is also this region home to about 2.7 billion people as such. There is a lot of international cooperation happening regarding anti-piracy, like the Somali Gulf of Aden area is actually infested with pirates. So there is a lot of policies regarding anti-pirates, terrorism and such. Also regarding Chinese aggression in this Indian water is also one of the key issues that IORA actually deals about. So remember, what is the basic content of IORA as such. So these are the important news articles from yesterday's and today's newspaper. From tomorrow, I will coming with the CaN, lunch masters and such. So please be available and go to our Telegram channel, Gallant IAS official, to do that quiz and such. So I will be meeting you again on Friday. Thank you and have a nice day.